Welcome to the Nerds of Comedy. We are here inside the Push Comedy Theater. We are the owners of the Push Comedy Theater. My name is Sean Devereux.
I'm Brad McMurran.
And joining us today is Mr. Scott Rose to talk about Best in Show.
That started strong. Okay.
Yeah. That's how we do it here.
Do we go to that camera now?
You can go to any camera you want.
How are you?
We are here with Scott to talk Best in Show.
Yes.
When we put out the call for our friends to bring us movies to watch, you picked Best in Show. How come?
Because it's primarily, obviously, improvised. Obviously, that's what we do a lot of here.
Yep.
So I have a different appreciation for that movie now than I did before I was doing improv.
Excellent. And real quick, tell the audience, just one sentence, what is the show about?
It is about a group of people that are traveling and end up at a dog show and who wins.
Excellent. And this is one of the ones you actually watched.
I did. I've watched a few times.
Yeah. So it's written loosely, I guess, because it is mostly improvised and directed by Christopher Guest.
Yes.
And stars Eugene Levy,
Yes.
Justin O'Hare, Michael McKean. Who else?
Fred
Willard.
Don't forget Fred Willard. That's my man.
Stewardess, can I take a Shih Tzu on my carry-on, or does it have to be stowed?
Yes, that's
Sir, is that a Shih Tzu?
an old joke, but a good one nevertheless. Yes, still.
That's a crowd pleaser.
I've seen this before, and it's one of those. I'm surprised I like this movie, just because I'm not a big fan of dog shows.
Right. Okay.
In fact, I very anti-dog show. This is
big.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah,
political.
the truth is coming out.
Well, when I was younger, the Westminster Kennel Club would have their annual show, and it was always on a Monday night. So we would bump Monday Night Raw.
Okay.
So I wouldn't be able to watch my wrestling because of the stupid dog show.
Yeah. I had that with the Spelling Bee.
What would the spelling bee bump?
The Spelling Bee knocks all sports out on ESPN for like a week while these little nerds talk about spelling.
They do a spelling bee on ESPN.
Yes, they do.
I did not know that.
There you go. You
I was
learned
8
something.
years old when I found that out.
I've learned to accept it.
Do you plan ahead in your calendar for the nerd bee? The
I've gotten into it. Yeah, I do. And I don't dislike the West Kent. The only thing I have a problem with is when you watch the dog shows in real life, it seems like Nazism.
How so?
They breed these things, and it's like, oh, that's a purebred there. I just feel like it's like I'm always watching the Aryan race.
As much as I hate agreeing with you, I can kind of see that, especially the way they kind of like run around the track. It's very rigid, very
Absolutely. It's like I could see like the goose step happening there. We might want to cut this out.
I was going to say,
keeping it
I'm
in.
thrilled to know my movie is the one that brings out Nazism. That's great.
Well, I didn't mean it for this movie because I'm a big fan.
So let's get away from the spelling bee and Nazis,
Yeah.
and talk about Best in Show.
And sometimes I think he's going to talk to the judge and say, "Hey, judge. Hey, judge. Look at me." He's not. The dog ain't going to talk, but his mind is like a telepathy.
It's a very kind of low key, low energy movie, and yet it still somehow works. Christopher Guest plays the owner of a bloodhound, and he's very kind of southern, who's trying to learn how to be a ventriloquist, which is kind of
That's
weird.
like his backup thing after the dog show. Yes.
Yeah. You have Parker Posey, and I can't remember the guy who plays.
I can never remember his name.
But he's been a bunch of stuff. They're very kind of like high-strung yuppies.
Mm-hmm.
The two best characters, aside from Fred Willard,
yeah,
are Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara, and I love their story. So they're taking their dog from Florida to the dog show, and they keep on running into people who have had sex with Catherine O'Hara back in the day.
Yes.
I banged a lot of waitresses in my day, but you were the best.
You don't
By
forget the
far.
best.
No.
Oh, Jerry. Jerry. Oh, Jerry.
They got to do something about the air conditioning.
Okay.
It's getting.
It's great to see you.
Okay.
It's getting. Hey, nice to see you, Malcolm.
Keep them up. Keep them up, okay?
And their chemistry is just so amazing. You know, granted, they worked for years together on SCTV, and they're in the show Schitt's Creek. On Pop TV, which I just started watching. And they've worked with Christopher Guest in the past. So he does these kind of loosely improvised movies. It started with Waiting for Guffman. I actually, if you want to go back even further, started with Spinal Tap and then Waiting for Guffman. The one after Best in Show was The Mighty Wind, which was all about folk
community
singers.
Wait,
Guffman, Waiting for Guffman was
is that the community theater? Okay, yeah.
And then let's talk about your favorite character.
Fred Willard.
Why talk about Fred Willard?
I'm obsessed with him and everything. He's always like, he makes me laugh every time he speaks. Like the part where he's like, you think about these people, they used to eat them. These dogs, they used to eat them. I'm like, I think he's this strange. Now you were saying yesterday that you don't think he's deadpanny. I do think he's deadpanny.
No, I would say most everybody in the movie is fairly deadpanned, except for Fred Willard. He's not. He's like this kind of cool burst of energy.
Well, his relationship with the other commentator cracks me up. Just the cuts will have that where the guy just sort of, he's always a little bit lost.
As you know, I have a franchise of schools around the country.
I didn't know that. Hey, so this is right down your alley. I went to one of those obedience places once. It was all going well till they spilled hot candle wax on my private parts. I'm just kidding. I'm serious. I know what you're talking about.
My favorite one out of that is just out of the blue, and he's like, that dog looks fast.
Yeah.
Is that dog fast?
Yeah.
And the guy playing with Trevor Beckwith, I think is the British guy.
That guy's great.
He's just like, what? Well, and I was watching it again this morning, and imagine how boring that, because it's a long chunk with the dog show where they're all in different breeds, how boring that would be and how you would make that even interesting. But you do have these two just going off.
That is true. It's great for pacing because you can just pop in on Fred Willard's commentary.
Yeah.
Good way to judge a woman. Have her run away from you and then run back. Those birds on Carnaby Street. Yes. I'm used to seeing them run away from me more often than run towards me. Yeah.
I love it. And what I love about Fred Willard just across the board, and sorry, I'm going to have a love fest on him, is even like Anchorman. He's always Fred Willard. Yeah. Where he's always just kind of downplaying every situation that's happening and making some stupid one-liner on it. And he got caught in that movie theater, and I thought that was mean of them to like.
Well,
No, I thought it was mean. A man wants to go to a movie theater in the 70s to make love to himself. I think he should be allowed.
Wait. It wasn't in he was in his 70s. It wasn't in the 1970s.
He probably did. He probably picked it up then.
Okay.
It's a pattern of behavior, probably.
Yeah.
They used to eat people like this.
Yeah.
So we have Nazis, spelling bees, and jerking off in movie theaters so far. So this
brings out the best.
If you wouldn't mind, could I ask a question?
Sure.
What character do you relate the most to into this movie?
Do I relate to the most?
Mm-hmm. Or that you'd want to play? Like if you were going to be an improv, like if you were looking at that script where you're like, oh my God, I want this role.
Out of that group of people, probably the Eugene Levy part, because there's just they obviously, between those two, they have the best storyline that's all the way through, with her banging people everywhere for the entirety of her life, and he just has to react to it.
Yes.
And my favorite chunk in this whole movie is when the two of them stop to see their friends on the way to the dog show, and it's Larry Miller.
Yeah, Larry Miller,
and whoever's playing his wife, and they're just sitting at the table, and he's hitting on Kitty. Larry Miller's hitting on Catherine O'Hara's character.
I forgot to compliment you on your luscious melon breasts tonight. How does that sound?
Come on. Look,
What the hell are you talking about now?
Jerry.
You know something?
That's my favorite thing in that whole movie.
Back to you. Who would you play?
Fred Willard.
Fred Willard.
Yes, I like
course.
him. Although there's no doubt about it, I'm a huge Eugene Levy fan too. But I do agree in her. I've got a comedy crush on her, Catherine O'Hara. Yeah, I think she's always funny. I will tell you, in that whole movie, what's really, really kind of awesome though, you nailed it when you said low key. To me, it's like all subtle.
Yeah, it's very subtle. There's
and improv is not normally that subtle, so it's great that they captured that.
Parker Posey, her and her husband have some energy there because they're very kind of high strung, and they just play these. She plays this kind of like just great bitch.
Yes.
Always like, nagging on her husband. The other two characters we haven't talked about are Michael McKean and Michael Higgins, who play the gay couple.
Yep.
Who
they are good.
Like Michael Higgins is like, they're packing and he's like, how many kimonos? That's 7 kimonos. Yeah. We're only going to be gone for 48 hours.
And he goes to grab another one because he needs another one. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So that's 7 So I need
how
one
many
more.
tea services can you do? Why are you doing this? I mean, I think we're overpacking, don't you?
Well, no.
Yeah. I've forgotten that, yeah.
And Michael Higgins' character, wherever they go, is making double entendres about whatever they say. You have Ed Begley Jr. as the hotel. I was going to say maitre d', but that's not really...
He's like the hotel manager.
Yeah, manager. Yeah. But again, he's low-key. Everybody else is very kind of low-key, but you do have these splashes of energy in them. Eugene Levy is great. He has 2 left feet.
Yes.
Which was just like a weird... I would love to know like how they came up with that bit.
Yeah, like that's and he actually helps Christopher Guest. He and Christopher Guest are the ones that come up with like the skeleton of what's going on. So they put that together and Guffman together and some of the later ones. But yeah, it's stuff like that. You're just like, how did you come up with that idea? Like, there's a whole bunch of different stuff in there, like the Jane Lynch and Jennifer Coolidge's characters, like they're low-key lesbians, but you don't know it at the beginning.
Yes.
And Jennifer Coolidge, that scene at the beginning with her husband who's like 400 years old and he's like comatose and just hanging out.
Yeah.
We both love soup and we love the outdoors. We love snow peas and talking and not talking. We could not talk or talk forever.
Like it's stuff like that that's brilliant.
Yeah. And other things in that too, when you talked about the 2 left feet, that's kind of underrated in this is the physical comedy in it.
Yeah.
Is watching him run next to that dog with Eugene Levy's kind of obviously uptight, right?
Yeah.
And when he's running next to that dog, I could watch him running next to that dog for another 20 minutes. There's just something so funny and like how, you know what it is? They're playing with etiquette the whole time.
Yeah.
As I really think about this, is it's etiquette with a bunch of people that are lacking in etiquette.
Right.
Well, if you true, that actually is a very good observation because you have the dinner scene where you have Larry Miller hitting on Catherine Hara right in front of Eugene Levy. There's another scene where they're having the party and Christopher Guest is talking to Parker Posey and her husband, and they are just dreading every second that they have to be in conversation with this guy. All right, so if somebody hasn't seen Best in Show, give them, why should they run out and watch this movie?
If you know going into it the dialogue's not written, I think it adds something to it. I almost think like you have to know that before you watch it so you can actually appreciate what's going on. Like they know the reason why they're doing these scenes, but the dialogue obviously isn't there. So if you get to watch it with an eye of watching these 2 people work together, or this group of people work together and kind of build a thing, like the big one I was noticing again today in the introduction scene with Parker Posey and her husband, and they're talking about when they met each other, and it's the 2 Starbucks
across the street.
And he would go to the other Starbucks on the weekend, and she would go to the other Starbucks trying to meet each other. But when they both run out of where they think they want to go, you see them look at each other for help almost, and the other one kind of pipes in, and then they find that moment.
Yeah. So and then they eventually bond over J. Crew.
Yes.
And she was,
and catalogs and the LL Bean catalog. Yeah. They're catalog people with their, and they both have braces.
Yeah, they both have braces.
That's the other like sprinkled all the way throughout. They both have braces. There's obviously the thing with the 2 left feet.
Yeah.
Larry Miller is like a negotiator, a hostage negotiator.
Who has never...
people that are going to jump.
Yeah, suicide prevention. But yeah, he's never succeeded.
Yeah, they always jump.
Yeah.
They don't tell you that. They always jump. Yeah.
You think about how many weirds are in this movie that they
It's
made
all over the
fine.
place.
Yeah.
But yeah, like obviously the dialogue's not written, so watching these people kind of create a thing. And the other fun thing I really like about Best in Show is these people take themselves very seriously, and the people playing it play it very seriously, but it's funny. It's just not making fun of them, which I appreciate. Like Waiting for Guffman is great, and it's probably my favorite Christopher Guest, but they are kind of making fun of these people at this theater. This one is just like, this is who these people are, and it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Like, it's not weird that Christopher Guest's character, like, makes the sound of his dog, like, saying, macadamia nut.
Yeah.
Pine nut, peanut, cashew nut.
And I agree with that. I do think that, Guffman, I remember watching Guffman and doing community theater at the time. And not that they were taking pot shots, but they were definitely poking a little fun. Like, if I was, somebody who does dog shows, I could see this as like a love letter to dog shows.
Right.
All right, I'll buy that. I'll buy that. Although I still can't get over thinking about you in community theater.
Oh, I was a community theater guy.
I saw you in Clue.
Clue the musical, yes.
God, you were so bad.
The character was bad.
Right.
Yeah, that was great acting.
Now, Scott, I do know, because we did have a little conversation off camera, that this is actually this movie has actually inspired you to try to use it in some of your own stuff.
It has.
And do you mind? I mean, telling what your future thinking is with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So with Hillary, who also does this show, and another friend of ours, Lindsay, we do a show called Faces for Radio. And we do a live staged radio play. But we've been talking about trying to do an improvised version, but how you keep it clean as far as the show and not go completely off the rails. So as I've been spending a lot of time really kind of looking at the Christopher Guest stuff, it makes a lot of sense to go, it can still be improvised as far as the dialogue, but the thing with how they build these movies and the individual scenes is, like, again, the thing with Eugene Levy's 2 left feet or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. So they're in this scene, and I'm sure a part of it was, we need to get to the fact that he's got these 2 left feet, because that's going to come in later. But whatever else happens gets to that point, and it's fine.
So they have certain destination points mapped out.
That have to be. That's the reason why you're there. How you get there is kind of up to you. Right. So I like the idea of, you can go in and go, these are the points that we have to hit. Sure. So if it's the beginning, the middle, and the end of whatever this radio play is, and whatever characters come in or whatever relationships you kind of build there, at least the basic is there, and the improvisation obviously is still there. That kind of adds to the stuff. And it's crazy, like Best in Show and some of the other ones, it's an hour and a half long, but he actually filmed like 90 hours of material.
Yeah.
So there's like 88 hours of material that you're just like, I wonder what was in that.
Supposedly the latest Blu-ray has a lot of deleted scenes, and they had alternate endings for how all the characters ended up. So yeah, I think it's worth. Normally, I'm very buying things online and watching them digitally, but I think this is one of those movies where it would be kind of cool to get the Blu-ray and actually watch these deleted scenes to see where these characters could have gone.
Or like just like, if I could just see a supercut over and over of like the Fred Willard stuff. Like what else came out of his mouth?
No shit. Like
there.
But think about that as a role. I mean, to get that right there where they're like, your objective in this right now is like, okay, you're the one that has no etiquette.
Right.
Because he has none. What I would love to know is, how did he get the fucking job? That makes sense. Like, who hired that man to be in that job?
My only guess, knowing, because I work
Good old boy system or something?
No, I work in local TV, that I could see him being the actual, like, the town weatherman or retired weatherman. He used to be the weatherman on, Channel 6, and now he's retired, but they still bring him back. So I could see that. He still has no idea anything about dog shows, but he's the name that's going to get people to watch.
Yeah, and he says some dark things we haven't brought up, but there are some things that are not quite jerking off in a movie theater, but they're, they should be.
It's sad to think, when you look at how beautiful these dogs are, to think that in some countries these dogs are eaten.
Well, and there's that weird, I think probably my favorite interaction with him, when he's in that scene with Bob Balaban, who's like in charge of this dog show, and he's talking, it's called the Mayflower Dog Show or whatever, and they're in Philadelphia, I think, and he's like, Mayflower makes sense because it landed in Philadelphia and Columbus, and Bob Balaban's like, that's not right, and he's like, nah, let the other people kind of figure it out. It's whatever.
Mayflower landed in Philadelphia.
Makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I do love this movie. Yeah, I was glad that you put this on this list because I would agree with you. This is not normally my bag.
No, I would say
like to take this slow because it is slow moving. Like when you were saying people watch it, I love you said to say no improvs there first because if I made my father watch this, I think he'd turn it off in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand.
Well, and I think it's not a laugh out loud. Like there's a couple of things here and there, but it's not. You're not going to belly laugh at it. Like a lot of it's just kind of a giggle as far as what's going on.
Just very subtle.
Yeah.
Throughout. All right, so that is Best in Show. Scott, thank you for joining us. You can find out more about Scott and Faces for Radio in the description. This has been the Nerds of Comedy. I'm Sean.
I'm Brad, and you can check out his DVD of Clue. It will be coming out soon.
Clue the Musical. See you next week.
Bye.